Hey everybody, it is Trey here with another great edition of Reactions to the Classics, bringing you another Beatles record with the Beatles. I'm joined today by SHAWN, and if this is your first time joining us, man, we really appreciate it. Here at Reactions to the Classics, we look back at some of the most classic albums of all time and give our reactions to them. Most of the time, it's our first time listening to the album. That's kind of the case here today.
Yeah.
We knew a couple songs, but not the album as a whole. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We upload twice a week in a variety of genres. And as always, guys, we're going to have the songs in the background, but due to copyright, can't play the full thing. So with all that being said, let's get to it.
All right, well, the quick facts are, Trey, this was released on November 22nd, 1963 in the UK. It was not released in the US until 1987. It's the second of the 12 UK albums released by the Beatles, which I'll explain in a minute. And even though it's 14 songs, it's only 33 minutes long. And their debut album, Please Please Me, 10 of the 14 tracks were recorded in one day. This was recorded over 7 months in 3 different sessions because Beatlemania from their first album was already taken off.
And it's interesting too, just like Please Please Me, you have 8 original compositions here, 7 by Lennon and McCartney, and then Don't Bother Me by Harrison is his first solo work. And then you have 6 covers, mostly from Motown, and then you have the famous album cover that's been mimicked a bunch, and one of the iconic Beatles photographs of all time.
All right, well, Trey, and this album was released 3 days after its original release, November 25th, 1963 in Canada. It just never came to America, although some bootleg copies did seep in. So don't get confused on the discography of the Beatles. We're going to do all 12 in this calendar year. This is already our second one. We're doing the UK versions as the true versions. A bunch of different weird versions came out in North America, split over different albums.
Yeah, combo of different albums.
So don't get confused by this. If you go to Spotify or Apple Music, they're the UK versions.
And something interesting with this thing had advance order of 500,000.
Yes.
And then another 500,000.
Which is huge in the UK.
Yeah, were sold pretty quickly. So it was only the second album ever in the UK to sell 1 million records, and it ended up topping Please Please Me, their debut album, at #1 on the charts. So they occupied that top chart between those two albums for 51 weeks. At the
consecutively.
at the #1 spot, which is just unbelievable and shows you just how big Beatlemania was, man.
All right, Trey, well, we'll jump right into the first song. It Won't Be Long. Lennon singing this. We'll tell you who's singing on each one of the 14 tracks. It uses a little play on words because one of the lines is, "It won't be long, yeah, till I belong to you." So belong, belong.
Yeah, nice little Easter egg in there.
Yeah, and it has scaling guitar riffs like they always had. It's early on Beatles stuff. Call and response, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then a dramatic pause towards the end so Lennon can kind of improvise. And that's a mark of early Beatles songs that kind of use that formula.
I thought this was a great opener. I really loved the callbacks, the yeah, 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 and just the energy in Lennon's voice here was really good and made for a great opener.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Really good opener.
And then we go right into another Lennon-led track, All I've Gotta Do. Some say that this is the first time a bass player played, such a vital part of the song. And I thought this was another great track too. I really enjoyed this A side, and nothing too much to say about it, but it was more mellow than the opener, and I like that kind of dichotomy there.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good, and Lennon specified that this was written specifically for the American market, even though it wasn't released in America at the time, because back then the idea of a British teenager or young adult calling a girl on the phone was unthinkable back then for them. It wasn't part of their culture. That's going to bring us up to our first McCartney-led song, All My Love, and most famous song off this album. I didn't mention in the beginning, but none of these were released as singles in the UK. Not one, which is really strange. But obviously not released in the US either because it didn't exist here. But remember the Canadian version I told you about? Well, they smuggled in the singles of this song. Enough of them that went to number 45 on the Hot 100, which is insane because it was not sold in America. So
that is
radio
unbelievable.
stations got a hold of it. It was Beatlemania.
No, and I just love hearing the stories behind every one of these songs, and that's why we kind of focus on that. And you know, just the song itself, I thought was another. I just highlighted the A side.
Yeah.
You know, I like that more than the B side, and just the vocals here, the "Oh my love," and you know, just you want to get up and kind of move to it.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah, and he's leaving. The idea of the song is he's leaving. He's got to go somewhere, so he's sending all his love to her, which was appropriate for them in this time when they were on tour constantly.
Yeah. Then we get into the first Harrison-led track, and actually the first Harrison song composed in the Beatles discography that
Correct.
he wrote. He wrote this while he was sick in bed one day, and I'd imagine it was tough for him being with two of the greatest songwriters ever.
Real tough.
Yeah, Lennon and McCartney. So this probably was a good confidence boost. Overall, I thought this was pretty good song again. I didn't like it as much as either of the previous three, but just had a nice little vocal tone, just like, don't bother me, you know, kind of stuff like that. And really good guitar work in here as well.
Yeah, the guitar is fire, and the basic premise of the song is this girl left him and he's so depressed, you know, he just wants to be not bothered, you know, just leave me alone. Interesting thing on this, yeah, Harrison really never spoke of it, and the Beatles never played it live, according to all the research I did. All right, that brings us up to Little Child, Trey. It's Lennon with McCartney. It's 1:46. They originally wrote this for Ringo, but they give a different song to Ringo on this one. McCartney referred to it as album filler, so he was not high on this song either.
Yeah, I would describe that as album filler, honestly. I don't really have anything great to say about it. It wasn't bad, but it was pretty forgettable.
Agreed.
Then we get into a cover originally written for a Broadway play, Till There Was You. This is a McCartney-led track, and this is about how love can kind of change your perception of the world. I wasn't really a huge fan of this, or sonically. I don't know, there's something missing.
Yeah, no, I wasn't a fan of it either. It's the only Broadway cover they ever did. McCartney was a fan of it from way back when, so, I mean, that kind of brought it into play. But yeah, it's pretty forgettable. Next up, we have a much more famous cover, Please Mr. Postman. Lennon's doing this one. His lyrics are so powerful.
Yeah, no, his voice just comes booming in from the first second. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's a great way to end the A-side. This was actually recorded in 1958 originally by a group called the Marvelettes for Tamla Records. Tamla Records turns into Motown, so this is considered the first #1 hit for Motown, which makes it iconic in itself. Why does he want the Postman to come?
Well, he's got a letter to send to his girl, and you know, though the lyrics and premise were pretty basic, I thought sonically it was really powerful. Thought it was a great song. One of my favorites on the entire record, and one that I am gonna visit quite a bit.
Yeah, agreed.
Then we start off the B-side with another famous cover, Roll Over Beethoven, originally made famous by Chuck Berry, and was one of his biggest hits. And I thought the Beatles did a pretty good job here. Another Harrison-led vocal track. I didn't like it as much as the previous cover, Please Mr. Postman, but a solid song nonetheless.
Yeah, agreed. And Chuck Berry wrote it in 1956, basically saying Beethoven would roll over if he saw what he was doing with his music.
The rock and roll.
Yeah, he's bringing the rock and roll. Next up, we have a McCartney-led tune, Hold Me Tight. It was originally recorded for their previous album, Please Please Me. It didn't make the cut, so they re-recorded it for this.
Yeah, and both Lennon and McCartney later on said that they thought this was filler, and I'd have to agree with them here. This was another weaker McCartney song, and nothing bad about it per se. It was just, again, kind of forgettable to me. Just a classic little love song, please hold me tight. Like, nothing terrible about it, but I'm not going to be going back repeating it too much.
Well, whenever the guys who wrote it tell you it's album filler,
that
kind of tells you all you need to know.
Next, we go into a Lennon and Harrison-led track, You Really Got a Hold on Me. This was a top 10 hit the year before with Smokey Robinson and his band The Miracles, and their version is in the Grammy Hall of Fame. This one, not so much. But I still enjoyed this song. Kind of had a nice mid-tempo flow. It was a pretty chill vibe to me. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, the premise is his girl treats him badly, but it just makes him want her even more. And most of us have been on this earth for a while, have either experienced that ourselves or seen it with friends. So the song has a good message to it. It's all right for me. Next up, we'll do I Want to Be Your Man, which is actually sung by Ringo. Lennon and McCartney wrote it, and they gave it to the Rolling Stones, and they released it as a single first. Lennon didn't speak real highly of this song, did he?
No, in 1980, he said that it was total throwaway. He said they only did 2 versions of the song, one with Ringo and one for the Rolling Stones. And he says, and I quote, "That shows how much importance we put on it. We weren't going to give them anything great, right?" So that kind of tells you all you need to know. This song again was kind of forgettable. It wasn't terrible. It was the token Ringo song, and I know he's done much better work down the line, and nothing terrible, but nothing great. Then we go into another Harrison-led track, Devil in Her Heart, and man, this one I wasn't a fan of, Sean.
Nah, it's a cover. And that's really all I got to say, but I just didn't feel it, man.
No, I don't know. Something was just off, I think, the way Harrison delivered the lines, and it just it wasn't a hit for me.
All right, next up, Trey, we got another Lennon-led song, Not a Second Time. George Martin, the famous record producer for the Beatles, actually playing piano on this track.
Yeah.
This girl was hurt, Lennon, and she comes back and wants him back, and he's telling her, not a second time.
Yeah, I'm not going to get fooled again, man. So I kind of like the message behind this one. A different little take on love instead of everything works out in the end.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that, and it was a good bounce back from the previous couple tracks for me.
Yeah, I thought it came in pretty strong.
Then we go into the album's closer, led by Lennon, Money, That's What I Want. This was originally written in 1958 by Tamla founder Berry Gordy, and one of the first Motown hits there was. So the Beatles did good choosing their covers, man. I thought this was the best song on the B-side, just really upbeat, energetic, and again, I really like Lennon's early vocals, the power there.
Yeah.
Just like Twist and Shout, the closer on Please Please Me.
Exactly.
I thought this had a good power and just left you kind of pumped up and ready to go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought Lennon really showed up on this album. I thought McCartney ended up with the best song on here, but kind of had a bad draw in the other songs. So that kind of brings us into, what are your favorite tracks?
I'm going to go with this one, Money, That's What I Want, Please Mr. Postman. I really dug All My Lovin', of course, obviously a favorite. So those would be the three that are up there.
My favorite by far is All My Lovin'. I think that's a great song, and that is McCartney-led, so he did have that. And then Please Mr. Postman. What'd you give the overall album?
Overall, I'm going to go a 7.25 on this. That's going to categorize it as an album that I thought was good and enjoyed listening to. It wasn't as good, for me at least, as Please Please Me.
No.
I just thought there was more inconsistency here. That being said, it's 32 minutes long, it's short, sweet, it's a good pop record, and has some good tracks on here, and the bad tracks aren't like so bad you want to just skip it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's consistent. I gave it a 7.0, which, I mean, it's the Beatles, so it's not going to be bad. And they also recorded this 4 months after they recorded Please Please Me, so at that time they were just trying to churn content. That's what the record companies wanted. Beatlemania was hitting, and don't worry, boys and girls, we're about to get to some fire albums by the Beatles. Iconic.
For sure. I'm really excited to dive into that, but it's nice too to see these early days, kind of see the progression. So when we get to those bigger albums, you can really see the difference. But I guess that about wraps it up for us today, Sean. I really appreciate you joining, and we will have more Beatles very soon. So as I said earlier, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button so you do not miss out on any of our uploads. We upload at least twice a week in a variety of genres, so there's going to be something there for everybody. And comment below and tell us what your favorite track was from this record and where you would rank this in the Beatles discography. So until next time, friends, happy listening, and we will see you.